both teams coming off pretty big wins. I mean, the Chargers looked really good against New Orleans Saints, and the Browns get an upset win against the Baltimore Ravens this past week with Jameis Winston now as the starting quarterback. Carmen, I'm very curious. In a matchup that a couple of weeks ago might have felt like a snooze fest, now it really doesn't anymore. These are two teams that have things to be excited about here. What's the matchup that matters here for you?
Something that gets lost in the Jameis Winston discourse, because we all like to talk about the 30 interceptions and how he's just kind of like this gunslinger in the back, in the backfield, and he just wants to make a play happen no matter what, is the fact that he takes a lot of sacks. And that's something that the Cleveland offensive line also does not do well. They have a 55.2 PFF grade, which ranks 31st in the league. They have the 29th ranked pass blocking grade, a 53.6. 117 pressures allowed in pass protection. That's the third most in the league. That to me spells a huge matchup when it comes to what the Chargers defensive line can do on the other side, because they're a top 10 unit. They have a 10th ranked PFF grade, 69.7. The Chargers defensive line in particular, their pass rushing grade, 19th. So it's not necessarily as aggressive as you necessarily want it to be, but there is going to be an opportunity against a Cleveland offensive line that has struggled in this area with a quarterback now that is going to hold the ball. We know that about Jameis Winston because he wants to make the play. He wants the big, bomb down the field. That's exactly how he likes to play, and it takes time, and that's not something that Cleveland has so far afforded their quarterbacks. Will that be different with Jameis Winston? Maybe. Not totally sure, but it's definitely, I feel like, the matchup that's going to matter most for the Cleveland Browns in particular, and how many points that they can put on the board, which isn't necessarily going to have to be that much, given that the Chargers offense we haven't seen be able to go out and blow the top off of games and score a ton of points. But can Cleveland's offensive line allow for production there? We're going to see.
I will continue that conversation, but I will say in week 8, so last week,
Yeah.
when they got Wyatt Teller back,
Yeah.
and Ethan Postic's back in the lineup, Joel Bitonio looked better because those guys were there. Really, the only weak link left was DeJuan Jones because Jedrick Wills was out. And the offensive line actually had, because I totally agree with you, we've pointed this out in the past, and as a season, the Browns offensive line has really disappointed, but they have been hurt a little bit. Last week, it felt like they were the most healthy they had been in a while, and they actually had a 69.8 passing grade. So it was better last week. Will that continue to be? Is this the new Cleveland Browns? I don't say new because it's kind of like the old Cleveland Browns, but is this the Browns offensive line that we're going to see moving forward, what we saw last week? Because I agree with you 100%. Jameis wants to hold on to the ball. He wants to push it deep down the field. You have to be better at pass protection, but at least they were last week. So I'm very curious if that continues against a Chargers defensive line that is pretty solid at getting after the quarterbacks. That is also my matchup that matters, but giving Cleveland a little bit more optimism, maybe from what it has been certainly at the in the middle of the season. My plus factor here, though, is, I mean, we've got two quarterbacks who can light it up. I mean, we know that Jameis is fearless when it comes to pushing the ball deep down the field. We certainly saw that last week as well. He attempted a lot more of those like NFL open passes, which is a nice way of saying like my wide receiver's not open at all, but I'm just going to give him a chance because that's what you have to do at the NFL level. Like I think of the David Njoku catch, and that's 100% the example there, right? Where David Njoku not open at all whatsoever, but Jameis just goes, nah, I'm going to believe in my guy, and he's going to give him a chance, and he ends up coming down with it for a touchdown. That's sort of what you have to do at times in the NFL. Jameis doesn't fear those kinds of throws. Very clearly, Justin Herbert does not either. 9 big-time throws for Justin Herbert over the last 2 games, 0 turnover-worthy plays. He's got back-to-back elite PFF passing grades over the last 2 weeks. No passer in the NFL has a higher passing grade than Justin Herbert. He was dealing with a high ankle sprain earlier in the season, but holy cow, does he look good now. And so this is a matchup of two quarterbacks who sort of have this fearless mentality with them right now, and it could be a little bit more of a high-scoring game on the scoreboard than I think people are willing to admit. I don't know what the over-under is. I didn't look that up before the show, but I'd be tempted, whatever it is, to probably bet the over in this one, even though the defenses are what we'd like to talk about here. What about you? What's your plus factor?
Yeah, mine's Lad McConkey because of what you just said about Justin Herbert and Jameis Winston for that matter. But like these are two quarterbacks that are unafraid to throw it down the field. And finally, Justin Herbert is being equipped to do that. You mentioned his stats over the last couple of weeks, 95 PFF grade, that's first in that span, 94 passing grade, that's first in that span. So he kind of is finding his rhythm in the pass game, and I think within Jim Harbaugh's offense. And who is he going to throw it to? He's going to throw it to Lad McConkey. He's got 8 missed tackles forced on receptions too, which is first in the league. 9 catches gaining 15 or more yards. That's 5th in the league. So when you talk about trying to push the ball down the field, trying to be productive, trying to break out of this kind of production lull that we've seen from the Chargers so far this season, this is exactly how Los Angeles does it. And so I'm very interested to see how Lad McConkey and Justin Herbert's relationship continues to blossom and if that spells more points for the Chargers as it has over the last couple of weeks.